They cried and they called us.
You ever see this? Chuck Daly.
This final season was more symbolic than
He was terrifying. That is what NBA legends say when they remember their first time facing Rick Mahorn. He was not the most famous bad boy, he was not the loudest. But once you walked into the paint with him, you understood something painful. Mahorn was smart, he was effective, he was respected. But his real greatness was built on making other players feel fear before they even touched the ball. To understand Mahorn, you have to understand the era he played in. The paint in his time was not a friendly place, it was a war zone. Hand checks were legal, hard fouls were normal, defenders were allowed to bump, grab, and bury opponents into the floor. And Mahorn was one of the toughest gatekeepers ever to guard that paint. He did not need huge stats to prove his impact. His impact lived in how players moved, how they hesitated, and how they thought before driving the lane. He used his body, his timing, and his mind to control space. He could turn an opponent's own power into their downfall. He could make rookies regret showing up. He could make stars rethink their entire approach. Many great players had nightmare first meetings with him. So let us count down 5 of those legends, in reverse order, and explain how Mahorn made each of them feel something they had never felt before on a basketball court. Number 5 is Karl Malone. Malone was no soft player. He came into the league strong, fast, and ready to bully people. But Mahorn did not care about a rookie's resume. Before their first jump ball, Mahorn walked right up to Malone. He told him something that no rookie wants to hear. He said he had 6 personal fouls and every single one of them had Malone's name on it. That one sentence set the tone for the whole game. Malone played, but he was already thinking about pain before he even touched the ball. The hits that followed were brutal. Malone later admitted the contact was so vicious he felt like he needed to wear a protective cup just to survive post-possessions. Imagine being a future Hall of Famer and feeling that unsafe in your own first matchup. That was the welcome Mahorn gave young stars. Pain first, basketball second. He was teaching Malone that the paint was not a place for soft introductions. It was a place where reputations either survived or got buried under hard contact. Before we move on, drop a comment and tell us what you think. Was this real defense, or did Mahorn take physical play too far? And if you enjoy these stories about the players nobody wanted to face, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video. Number 4 is Shaquille O'Neal. Young Shaq was a freight train. He was around 300 pounds of muscle and power. Most defenders just tried to survive him. Mahorn did something different. He played with Shaq's mind. He once joked that guarding Shaq felt like being asked to carry his lunch. But behind the joke was a real plan. When Shaq leaned into him to back him down, Mahorn used a trick called pulling the chair. He simply removed his body at the exact moment Shaq pushed back. Shaq's huge force suddenly had nothing to push against. His own power sent him crashing to the floor. Imagine being the strongest man on the court and being put on the hardwood by a defender who barely touched you. That is the genius of Mahorn. He understood that mass without balance was useless. He turned strength into a weakness. For young Shaq, that lesson was painful and embarrassing. It taught him that not every defender could be beaten with raw force alone. Number 3 is Patrick Ewing. Ewing was a true post threat. He had range, footwork, and serious power. But Mahorn made the matchup feel like a 48-minute wrestling match. The battle started before Ewing even got the ball. Mahorn used forearm bars, hip checks, elbows, and constant body pressure to push him off his favorite spots. Every catch was a fight. Every touch was a workout. By the time Ewing finally got the ball where he wanted it, his legs were tired and his arms felt heavy. That is the most underrated weapon a defender can have. Mahorn drained Ewing before the offense even began. Late in games, Ewing's shots felt heavier because his body had been pushed and grabbed for nearly an entire game. Mahorn was not just guarding a man, he was burning his fuel. For a center who wanted easy post position, this was a nightmare. It made simple basketball feel like a brawl. And that is what made Mahorn so dangerous against bigger scorers. Number 2 is Charles Barkley. Barkley was a problem for almost every defender. He had power, he had explosion, and he had a low, strong base. Most players bounced off him. Mahorn did not. Mahorn's lower body was so heavy and so balanced that Barkley said it felt like trying to back down a wall. Standard post moves stopped working. Barkley could not move him. Worse, Mahorn could even uproot Barkley's balance. Imagine the strongest forward of his time feeling like he had nowhere to go. Off the court, Mahorn and Barkley were close friends. On the court, they were violent rivals. Their battles got physical fast, and in 1990, that rivalry boiled over into one of the most infamous brawls in NBA history. Even Barkley, one of the most fearless players ever, could not just push Mahorn around. He had to fight for every inch of space, and even then he often lost the battle. Number 1 is Michael Jordan. The Jordan rules are famous for a reason. Detroit had a plan to stop the greatest scorer in the game, and that plan needed muscle in the paint. Mahorn was a huge part of that wall. Every time Jordan drove into the lane, he knew what was waiting: a hard collision, a fall to the floor, a bruise that would last for days. Mahorn did not just want to block the shot, he wanted Jordan to remember the landing. The punishment was so constant that Jordan had to change his entire body. He started lifting heavy weights. He built thick muscle so he could survive contact. He rebuilt himself from a slender flyer into a strong, balanced finisher. Think about that. The greatest player ever had to physically transform, because defenders like Mahorn made the paint feel like a battlefield. Scottie Pippen learned the same lesson. As a young, slim forward, Pippen tried to drive baseline and finish in transition. Mahorn became a human roadblock. Those collisions were not normal fouls. They were warnings. The lane was not free. Pippen later bulked up too, building the body that would make him a champion. So Mahorn did not just stop Jordan and Pippen for one night. He helped force them to become bigger, stronger, and tougher versions of themselves. That is one of the strongest signs of his negative impact. He was so punishing that even Jordan, the greatest of all time, had to physically change to survive him. Now, to be fair, Mahorn was not seen as a dirty player by everyone. Larry Bird had real respect for him. Bird said Mahorn was different from Bill Laimbeer. Bird felt Laimbeer tried to actually injure people. Mahorn was not like that. Yes, Mahorn delivered hard, painful fouls. Yes, he wanted you to feel the contact. But it was about competition, not malice. Bird understood the line, and he respected that Mahorn never crossed it. That balance matters. Mahorn was terrifying, but he was not a villain trying to end careers. His own teammate, Isaiah Thomas, saw the other side of Mahorn's value. To Isaiah, Mahorn was an insurance policy. Detroit's guards could pressure ball handlers all over the floor because they knew Mahorn was waiting near the rim. If anyone got past the perimeter, they ran straight into a punishing finisher. That fear gave Detroit a huge edge. Opponents hesitated, and hesitation gave Detroit easy stops. Mahorn turned defense into a team weapon by being the player nobody wanted to meet at the rim. When you bring all these moments together, you see Mahorn's real power. It was not only his size, it was timing, leverage, fear, and the threat of pain. He read body language. He attacked weak balance. Every contact had a clear purpose, and that purpose was control. He could make Shaq fall by removing contact. He could make Ewing tired before the catch. He could make Malone feel unsafe. He could make Jordan rebuild his body. He could make Pippen think twice on every drive. He could make Barkley fight for every inch. That is a defender who reshaped the game. His style belongs to a different era. It would be hard to imagine that level of punishment being allowed today. But the legacy is real. He changed how legends attacked the rim, how they trained, and how they thought about contact. His game was terrifying, but it was also effective and deeply respected. So tell us in the comments, which legend had the worst first meeting with Rick Mahorn? Was his defense true toughness, or was it too much? And if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more stories about the most feared players in basketball history. Until next time, stay tough and never forget the men who made the paint a battlefield.